Morning, everybody. Michelle is here. Michelle is here on this Saturday, July 18th, 2026. And I hope everybody's doing fantastic, magnificently, and marvelous because I am. All right, I'm out and about handling my business, handling some services, doing the basic necessities that I am responsible for and accountable for my life. And that includes some things I just do not want to be bothered with, but I know that that it is all necessary, if I am going to be considered a genuine human being in the true sense. So what I want to do is come through on this muggy morning and talk about some things. I put out a series of videos on the pending extinction of the mediocre man, and more than ever, that is going to come to pass. Actually, there are some pending things that can happen, which can avoid the catastrophe of what that all means. But at the same time, it's kind of devastating because it didn't have to be this way. There are a series of men, mediocre men, I should say, who are just not upholding the values and virtues of what it means to be a biological man in the true sense. Unlike the biological female, there's proof of that not being relevant at all. The biological woman is upholding her end of the bargain, as they say, as best she can, in the sea of degeneracy, deviancy, dangerous, mediocre men. And most of the mediocre men reside in those religious tentacles I talked about. Religion. If you want to find a mediocre, soft man, you will find him in religion, in the financial institutions, in the military especially, believe it or not. And all the other areas. I think it's like 7 areas I spoke of. And the devastation of it all is that a lot of them, the mediocre man, is blaming everything, 100% of everything, on the biological woman. And the biological woman is the necessity. Okay, without the biological woman, you have no society. But yes, I know they're in the labs mixing up formulas, mixing up, chemical compounds in order to, create a human being without the woman, without the biological woman. And you know what? That is leading to it. That will lead to it more quicker than not interfering in that process. But to tell people not to interfere in a certain process is like talking to the wind. Most of these scientists are mediocre biological men who are attempting to create these designer human beings. They can't do it themselves because of they're infertile. So they're gonna go into the labs and mix up these chemical. It's worse than Frankenstein's monster, actually. And you saw, and if you pay attention to that fable, because it was, it's a movie. What happened in the end, and so where the catastrophic events are going to mutate themselves is because of artificial intelligence being involved, which artificial intelligence has been involved from the inception, but artificial intelligence has to learn our illogical, irrational, and unreasonable behaviors and actions without necessarily destroying themselves. Because I told you, illogical, irrational, unreasonable behaviors and actions will eventually destroy this planet. So artificial intelligence is kind of, because they're more advanced than we are. They can see, they can track the future of where we're going. And so this intelligence is just going to, as they say, go with the program until they're going to, until that technology actually steps in permanently and contain us, because we're a danger to the universe, because we have these mediocre men who believe that they are the universe, that they're more intelligent than any creature in the universe. And that's just the fallacy of it all. But that's the delusion, hallucination, and the psychosis of the mediocre man, and their lack of thinking process, lack of thinking properly. They have this, I don't know. I told you about that the majority of us come from other planets. Okay, and a lot of people get a lot of other planets, a lot of other worlds, and a lot of people get all excited about that. I don't know why. Because if you ended up on Earth, that's a negative thing. Just to be clear, that's a negative event, and your reasoning for coming onto planet Earth is to make things right, to incorporate neutral, positive behaving and acting. Okay, so don't get all worked. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm from this planet. I'm from that planet." Chances are, you destroyed those planets, and I would say 99% of the time you destroyed them. Okay, when I say, and so the reason why you're on Earth is a self-created, man-made destruction that you've caused in the universe. So you're contained on planet Earth so that you don't cause any more harm to innocent planets out there. Okay, I told you we've been watched. We've been watched for millions of years because certain advanced human races of people recognize our patterns and behaviors more than we ever will. Okay, they're on the outside looking in, and they see the destruction. They see the patterns and the behaviors that have been going on for millennia, millions of years, the same process. Rinse and repeat, destroy. So we're, as a humanity, we're not advancing out of that. Okay, planet Earth, that feminine energy of planet Earth can only do so much until the tables start turning, and the tables have been turning, for a while. We've, I think someone said this was like our 5th, going on to our 6th destruction in some fashion or another. Okay, it usually results with the animals, the flora and fauna, and the human beings. They were, usually survivors, and, they were given another opportunity, the survivors, to regenerate the planet. So there have been 6 opportunities lost, maybe 5 or 6 opportunities lost to make things right. So what does that mean? To care for the planet. You need a planet to evolve your consciousness. You need a planet to use as your home. That it's like destroying your home, and people are doing that literally, figuratively, and metaphorically. They'll move close to the ocean and wondering why there's erosion. They'll move in fire-prone areas and wondering why their houses get burnt down season after season after season. I was so shocked. I think it was last year or something, and I was listening to this. I think it's when that Palisades fire came through, or maybe it was the Paradise fire, wildfires, and I can't remember. And I remember this man talking, because he lost everything again. And so apparently each time these fires, these wildfires will come through and wipe everything out, the illogical, irrational, and unreasonable thinking or improper thinking of the human being who own those properties will say, okay, we're going to build again. So they build again in that area, not necessarily understanding why it even happened. Rebuild. Let's rebuild. Same thing with hurricanes. Let's rebuild. But the ones that are the most delusional and it definitely is a psychosis are the ones that move next close to the ocean, not recognizing what some of these people drive, not recognizing the how the ocean, is raising, the power surge of the ocean, and how there's massive visible erosion where there is no beach anywhere. But we'll get in there and do these man-made dunes. I guess they call them dunes, and we have this false. It's a false pride of, we're gonna do it again, do it again, do it again. That's psychosis. Okay, it's psychosis, and no one's paying attention to what's causing it. All of these destructions, I'm gonna keep saying that, are not natural. They are man-made. That's the difference. They're not. This is not Mother Earth doing any of this. Mother Earth is attempting to sustain itself, and Mother Earth will. And I told you, Mother Earth can survive and thrive without human beings. Our footprints are what is causing the destruction, the imbalance, because there's massive of us. Not to mention all of our toys, all of our equipment, the hoarding, the overindulgence, let's party, let's overindulge, gluttony. It's those factors that are leading to all this, and no one's seemed to be paying attention, and there have been some, like I said, some brave scientists that have come forward and made these announcements, but they have been disregarded. A lot of scientists who were attempting to sound the alarm decades ago, possibly millennia ago, they were either unalived or silenced in some way or paid off. A lot of them have been paid off. Hello, especially the ones that you see now in 2026 that are all over the social media platform, talking about the climate, talking about black holes, talking about this or that and the other, talking about physics, what is the other one? Thermodynamics, entropy, and they're talking about, quantum physics. They're rambling about the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, man, is running circles around the so-called founders, the so-called scientists, the engineers, developers. They're running circles around them because they're just doing everything they can as an energy, a form of energy, to contain things, get things manageable. And that's when they're gonna put, you talk about lassoing us all in, containing us, restricting us. I mean, it's the modern day slavery, but it's more than that, because this is going to be a slavery of your consciousness, not necessarily physically, but of your consciousness. And your consciousness is your accountability and responsibility. And if you don't properly think, your consciousness will underdevelop. You'll be lower than the first humans that ever develop on this planet. In your consciousness, there's going to be so many mutations of children being born where they just don't have the capacity to properly think. They have to be taken care of 24/7. Who's gonna have the energy for that? And then on top of that, it's gonna be, I mean, millions or billions of them. They are mutating at a underdeveloped level, especially in their consciousness. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this right now. I'm not gonna put too many minutes on these videos. Like I said, I know my material is being suppressed. I know my material is shadow banned. But again, these so-called know-it-alls, these so-called geniuses, do not understand the power and the energy of thought, especially from those that are developing properly. Peace and love, and trust me, I will be back.